It's the British Army's largest armoured exercise for a decade. More than 1,500 soldiers and 300 vehicles dispatched to the Jordanian desert for Shamal Storm 2016. Among them is the 1st Battalion, the Duke of Lancaster's regiment, based in Cyprus. This exercise a chance to test how prepared they really are.
This is about readiness, pure and simple. So when we are held at readiness under the regional standby role, we need to be prepared to deploy anywhere in the region, as the name suggests, and to deal with any number of contingencies. One of which, and currently highly unlikely, but nonetheless it's one that we need to be ready for, is war fighting. And then there's a whole spectrum of conflict. And so we're introducing as many aspects of different complexities and different scenarios for the guys to deal with in this exercise in order to hold them as ready as we can be.
Home for One Lancs for several weeks is a Jordanian military camp called Jebel Batra. 1,600 metres above sea level, it's surrounded by a huge expanse of empty desert. In it, One Lancs have created 8 different firing ranges, each a different size and all perfect for live firing. Everything from machine guns to hand grenades and mortars.
It's really important that they get to see how they apply fire to a target, and they get to understand some of the constraints of being able to do that, particularly with other soldiers moving about them. So it's really important to do that, because otherwise, you're kind of working in quite an unconstrained environment when you're working with blank rounds. So, it brings a real level of realism, and also it builds confidence in the soldier's ability, particularly just handling his weapon and being around other people handling their weapons.
We need to push through, right, this wadi, right.
Shamal Storm is designed as a test for the Army's Vanguard Enabling Group. Their job to provide the logistics needed to move Britain's reaction forces into any theatre worldwide. The British Army has sent more than twice the number of soldiers and equipment to this exercise, Shamal Storm, than it's done in previous years. 1,600 troops are here in Jordan, exercising and testing how effectively and quickly the UK military could deploy a large armed force overseas at short notice.
Fire support are going to remain in that location.
Today, ANZIO company are practicing section attacks. 8 soldiers, led by a section commander, clearing a wadi of enemy fighters.
Yep, clear.
As they move forward, the targets pop up, each of them dealt with in turn. This is a building block of infantry training, a small team of troops using grenades and bayonets to engage and kill an enemy. By its nature, live firing is dangerous, and making sure the risks are minimised is a team of safety officers.
I've got is 1 safety to 4, so 1 safety person to 4 people. Today we did 1 to 2, which just means that two guys have more flexibility to move around the range, and we don't have to stop them doing what they naturally want to do if you've got more safety staff. Then I'm just dressed back, just looking over everyone, just checking all the safety are, covering all the firers, and then I've got a bloke next to me with the screen for the target op, and he basically has the target that bobs up and down. So when the guys are hitting rounds on it, it will drop and it will come back, and that just simulates suppressing the enemy, so keeping the enemy's heads down. When they hit it, it will drop, and when they're not hitting it, it will come back up.
Eventually the enemy is overcome and the section's performance is evaluated by the regimental sergeant major. Nearly all these young Kingsmen join the army after the end of operations in Afghanistan, and for them soldiering in this harsh Middle Eastern terrain is a new experience.
I think for the lower lads that have just come out of training, because we've got quite a few at the moment, for them to get live grenades in the hands and do a section attack with a GPMG and moving on to platoon attacks, I think that's a great stepping stone for their careers.
Clear, clear.
Jordan borders both Iraq and Syria, and that's led some to wonder if this exercise is a rehearsal for something else, a question I put to One Lancs commanding officer.
But no, you shouldn't read anything into it. We are, as an army, we're required to hold forces at readiness, and those forces held at readiness need to be prepared to deploy to any possible theatre of operations. So this is simply a generic exercise designed to get us ready for whatever may come our way in terms of an operational tasking.
Number 1, fire! 1, fire! Fire!
Deep in the Jordanian desert, SOMME company's mortars are raining down fire on a pretend enemy.
Elevation! 0965!
And for the mortars, the huge desert provides a rare chance to fire live rounds.
One ammunition expended!
So this is the scenario. About 2.5 kilometres or so over that ridge, a platoon from ANZIO company have advanced and occupied a police station. They've now come under fire from a village about 500 metres or so away on their flank, and to suppress that attack, they've called in support from the mortar platoon from SOMME company.
Bearing 0530!
With a range of nearly 6 kilometres, around 3.5 miles, these 81mm mortars were widely used to support troops in Afghanistan.
Ammunition ready!
After firing 2 rounds to bed their weapons into the dusty ground, the Lanks begin laying fire onto the mock battlefield.
The 81mm mortar, it's what every infantry battalion holds. It can provide up to about 80% of the battalion's firepower, so it's quite a useful bit of kit. We can fire illume, IR illume, smoke and HE. Normally we work on a 2K principle where we're 2K behind the friendly troops, and that'll give us a range of just over 4K, so we can cover them up to there. Once we're starting getting out of range, then the other mortar line will move up, set up. Once they're good to go, then we'll pack up and follow the battle.
For these Kingsmen, many of them new to the battalion, this is a chance to test their training under pressure in a battlefield scenario.
Well, we get fire for effects, which is basically just they'll tell us how many rounds we've got to fire, and we'll just get them down the barrel as fast as we can. And then after that, we'll probably get a rate of fire, and then rates of fire can go up to a rate of 12, which is 1 round every 5 seconds.
And this is how things look over the ridge on the battlefield itself, albeit the next day in rather different conditions. This is the platoon attack exercise, 3 sections of 8 soldiers occupying an abandoned police station. This area of desert is nearly 2,000 metres above sea level, and through the mist, the platoon pushes out to find and assault the enemy positions.
So we've started the exercise off with a live firing phase, and that's going to continue for the next 3 or 4 days, and ultimately each of the rifle companies will build up to a company day and a company night attack. We'll then go into a dry firing phase of the exercise with blank rounds only, and we'll focus on some more specific skills, working in some more complexities of dealing with local nationals, host nation, security forces and the like.
1,600 British troops are in Jordan. Alongside the Lanks are 3-6 Engineer Regiment, here teaching soldiers how to use this piece of equipment called the Horn, a metal detector and ground-penetrating radar. It's very similar to the Vallon used by the British military in Afghanistan to detect IEDs.
Fine!
So at the moment, as you can see, he's working his way up what we call threat lane, and he's got a hit on his device. That is, the device has read that there's something in the ground. So at that point, he's gone into what we call confirmation drills. The confirmation drills are that he's got himself in a position as small as possible so he can, using one hand, bring himself onto the device so he can expose some of it.
After several weeks hard soldiering, this is the final test. In their operations tent at Jebel Batra camp, 1 Lanks plan their final live firing exercise, a complex company-level attack involving more than 100 soldiers, heavy weaponry and 3 kilometres of unforgiving terrain. The following morning, ANZIO company drive deep into the Jordanian desert, unaware of what awaits them. So this company-level exercise is about to get underway. Shortly, a convoy of around 15 vehicles carrying the troops of ANZIO company will come over that ridge and enter the firing range. And almost as soon as they do so, they'll come under attack. As the vehicles enter the exercise area, a simulated IED explodes. This is designed to replicate the chaos of a real battle. The enemy imaginary, but the weapons and ammunition very real.
I want rapid fire in 5!
So we're trying to achieve fire and manoeuvre, so we need a good amount of complexity in the ground to enable the troops to find cover and to be able to move in dead ground, and also apply fires. So, particularly we're looking for, at company level, that platoons would move to a position that they could provide fires, whilst another platoon's manoeuvring in dead ground.
As troops begin clearing the valley, the machine gunners and anti-tank units move to higher ground to give covering fire. Here too are one-lanx snipers, their long-range rifle able to hit targets 600 metres away.
1-1 Alpha, acknowledge. Over.
While this is a chance to see how the battalion's junior soldiers perform, it's a test for ANZIO's officers too.
At the moment, we've got our fire support up on this hill, machine guns and anti-tanks, a rifle platoon in the waddy clearing the first early positions, and a second rifle platoon on their right flank using the high ground to outflank a depth position. Meanwhile, in the rear, my sergeant major and the rear party are dealing with 2 casualties that we've taken, the immobilised vehicles being recovered by REME assets, and then we'll rebalance and continue on with our mission.
In the valley, the sections are moving through the range, clearing enemy positions as they go. Just like a real battlefield, this one hides a variety of threats. The range team have planted a fake IED beside the road. Lightning, a 7-year-old explosive search dog, is sent in to investigate and soon signals he's found something suspicious.
They find out the vehicles are going to be moving through on the road pretty shortly, so well, there's a bit of a VP down the bottom end, which is a vulnerable point. I'll fire into that area there with a few marker stones down there as well. And he gave me a positive indication on one of the markers down there. All they've laid out there at the moment is wrappers of PU4, which is an explosive, military grade explosive we use. They're trained on those back at the Defence Animal Centre in Melton Mowbray, and we get them in the regiment, and then we just crack on doing continuation training with him all the time. He's actually a pretty good dog, so I can't really knock him.
With the IED confirmed, a convoy of route clearance vehicles arrive. But for the purposes of the exercise, they too are attacked, returning fire with their remotely operated 50 calibre guns. With mortars peppering the imaginary enemy buildings, ANZIO finally reached their objective.
For relatively junior soldiers and for those that have not deployed anywhere overseas on operations before, it really is as close as you can get, going to a foreign country, going through all the activity that has to happen to make that happen, getting there, getting your equipment there, establishing somewhere you can operate out of. All of that is invaluable, and the only way you can learn those lessons is by going and doing exercises like this overseas, and we're really grateful for the opportunity that in this case the Kingdom of Jordan have given us to do so.
While this may be a mock battle, this whole exercise has been about making sure these troops can, if required, do this for real, against a future and far from fictitious enemy.